Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
You know, we had one plan crafted for Purple Daily. We had an episode planned, and then we were going to come back later and do like a bonus 53-man roster recap. But enough stuff is trickling out, including a surprise cut that we will get to. So, let's just go live. Let's just digest this as it comes in, live on the Purple Daily YouTube channel. Got the sports dad having to rush into the old 1500 ESPN studio because his power went out in St. Louis Park.
This is no day for mishaps. This is no day to screw around. Again, you know what? This entire, if you think about it, this entire training camp has been filled with obstacles for sports dad.
But all you do is overcome. You just overcome and deliver content. Because you know what you do? You find solutions.
You got to find solutions.
I'll bet the power's not out at Park Tavern. I bet they've got backup generators and
they're going right now.
Kegs.
They're going right now. That's right. I am not at my home in SLP, but if I was, I would probably blow this show off completely and be on the way to Park Tavern right now, which is the official sports bar of the Sports Dad. All the games are on there. Football, college football kicks off in earnest on Thursday. Then a week after that, we got the National Football League games on. I'm going to tell you right now, if you want to watch the game, Park Tavern is the place to watch it. If you want to hold a private event, I'm not talking like some small shindig. I'm talking like a retirement party. I'm talking it's Bob and Cheryl and 50 people. Guess what? Park Tavern can house that too. Parktavern.net, parktavern.net, located at Highway 7 and Louisiana Avenue South in St. Louis Park. It is really a fun land for sports fans. You can go bowling, everything you could possibly want.
Well, let's start with the breaking news that caused us to push the live button here on Purple Daily. It's not like earth-shattering, but it's a surprise cut. Kene Nwangwu, here's what we know right now. We know that Jaquelin Roy has been cut, fifth-round pick from last year. Andre Carter, priority UDFA signing from a year ago, he's been cut. Myles Gaskin, we saw that. Figure, Myles Gaskin, yeah, that makes sense. So you're going to keep the three running backs, right? Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler and Kene Nwangwu, one of the best kick returners in the league with that new kickoff format, and played really well when given chances in the running game. So Kene Nwangwu, according to Tom Pelissero, will either be cut or traded sometime before the deadline today. And we'll get to some other stuff too, injury-related stuff, but let's just start there. Your thoughts?
I'm really surprised based on the fact that I thought for him, I thought he was going to be cut last year because if you recall, he hurt his back early in training camp, missed a ton of time, and there was clearly a frustration from O'Connell on up, right? He's not practicing. He's got to practice. I think that there was probably some feeling from some that he could have come back before he did. So I thought a year ago his roster spot was in jeopardy. He was not cut. This year, healthy the entire camp, flashed in both preseason games and training camp. Here's the only weird thing that I will throw at you that I dismissed, but full credit to my good friend and former colleague Kevin Seifert now of ESPN. Seifert observed at one point, he's like, what's really weird? I'm like, no, what, Kevin? He said, Nwangwu is not returning kicks like in practices, and they didn't do a ton of work here. But when they would return kicks in games, he didn't return kicks. And Kevin's like, this seems really odd. And I'm like, I think that they just know that he can do it. But I wonder if at the end of the day now, what caught up to him possibly was the fact that, and this goes back to a discussion that we had when the 1 year experimentation of the kickoff rule was put in. And I think, Phil, you talked about this quite a bit. The kickoff has changed now. So you're looking for a different type of player. You're not necessarily looking for the guy that would be alone in the end zone and then if he could possibly return the kick, be a speedster. I wonder if that's going to be part and parcel of why. You also have to wonder if they are close to obtaining a running back in a trade. Like something else is going on here.
Something is afoot.
Something is, I just did the windy fingers.
Now,
something's going on here, but it is interesting that the change in kickoff return might have also impacted how they felt about the need for Kene.
I do see a bunch of people in the YouTube comments wondering, well, who's going to return punts? I don't think Kene has ever returned a punt with the Vikings. Yeah, correct. Powell is, well, unless he gets surprise cut, then everyone needs their head on a swivel. But Yeah, I mean, Kene has been almost exclusively a kick returner in his NFL career. He has 68 kick returns and only maybe a couple handfuls. Like, he had 27 carries, 6 catches. So I guess I thought that they would give him a shot as a kick returner and maybe see if they could sprinkle him in offensively like they were doing during the preseason. But at the end of the day, I don't think they trust him as a situational running back. If you look at his career arc going back to 2016 at Iowa State, and again, he's not a guy that you're going to put in really on first and second down because he's not. He wasn't even that at Iowa State. He was playing behind Breece Hall for a couple years. So at no point in his college or NFL career has he been a guy that you sit back behind the quarterback and take handoffs and run between the tackles. That is not what he has done at any point really in bulk for 8 years. Say, well, what about third down? Can't you trust him out there as a guy who ran a sub 4.40, maybe catching screen passes or swing passes? This is crazy. If you go back 8 years, college and pro, he has 13 total catches, and he's not exactly a master at picking up blitzes too. So I mean, He's the ultimate theory of a running back. Where boy, if you could tap into this, that, and the other, but at the end of the day, Iowa State didn't. And the Vikings didn't, and now he's 26 years old and probably looking for a job, according to the Tom Pelissero reports. But he's a guy that you thought if you could just find a role for him somewhere, could you leverage that speed and that explosiveness? And the Vikings decided that they're going to look elsewhere. I think they're going to be. I don't think Dwayne McBride makes the team, so they're going to go find a third running back via trade or waiver wire.
They told him,
he was cut yesterday.
So he's gone. Gaskin's gone. Kene is gone now, so there's definitely that. That's what I'm saying. I wonder if in one of the trades where they're shopping, a few guys, if not more, from the 2022 draft class. I wonder if there are talks about a running back coming back. Like it feels like there's definitely something afoot here, and you can find them. Like it's not impossible. But I am curious on kickoffs now because the kickoff returns will require 2 guys being back. So who are going to? So it's not 1 now; it's 2. So is that going to be a wide receiver who's down the depth chart? Like you are going to have to account for that. That's the one that intrigues me, and it also intrigues me that I do not think that we saw a thing of the reality of the kickoff in the exhibition games. Like I don't think that's how it's going to go.
You don't even think I'm trying to find who all they used here just for fun. Kickoff returns here in the 3 preseason games. So yeah, Lucky Jackson, was back there,
but he'd be a 7th receiver. I don't see him making the team.
Thayer Thomas. Well, but in your world, he'd be a 7th receiver because you got Sherfield making the team. But do they see it differently?
Well,
or do they? They wouldn't go with just 2 running backs and a fullback, C.J. Ham. I mean, they do trust C.J. Ham in pass protection on third down.
They do, but I don't think that you would do that because the one thing with Jones is that there has to be concern because of his age, and he did get hurt last year. Like Aaron Jones, I don't think by any means is going to be a carry-the-load bell cow guy. I think he's going to play a lot, but there has to be insurance there.
Ty Chandler's probably one of your kick returners, right?
It's very
Don't you
possible,
think that makes some sense?
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. So did he return a kickoff in the exhibition games, in the preseason games?
He did not. According to Pro Football Focus, he did not line up back there.
I don't remember him.
Lined up. Yeah. The guys that lined up back there were Lucky Jackson, Thayer Thomas, N'Keal Harry at one point, or was that like a mistake? Did someone kick it short and he wandered back there and picked it up? I don't know. Yeah. Dwayne McBride lined up back there. Cornerback Jalen Williams did.
Yes, Cleveland.
Malik Knowles and Myles Gaskin.
So they're going to unveil something clearly. See, this is where I keep saying I think that they did work on this during the walkthroughs when we weren't in there. I think they did work that we didn't see on kickoffs, which to me, the question is, again, what were you doing in there? What exactly were you doing?
You could make a case. A lot of these guys have already been cut, but of the 7 players that handled kick returns during the preseason, none of them are going to be on the regular season 53. So They either feel good that they can just throw someone in without any work, or to your point, they were doing a lot of work when the media wasn't around, a couple hours beforehand.
Dastardly.
So, interesting. Should we get to any other just Kene Nwangwu takes here, or should we get to some of the other stuff we know?
Dex, you got anything?
No, I mean, No. He was an all-pro kick returner, right, his rookie year, because he returned a couple kicks. But with the new rule changes, Ty Chandler also returned some kicks last year for the Vikings. He might be the option there. I don't know. It is interesting that it's been a very secretive kind of plan there on their special teams.
All right, here's some other things we know. We know 5th-round pick from 2023, Jaquelin Roy, cut.
Yep.
We know Andre Carter II, who was a priority UDFA signing from 2023, cut. Myles Gaskin, we talked about. And then according to reports on the injury front, TJ Hawkinson will just stay on the PUP list, meaning he will miss the first 4 games and then they will reevaluate him. And for the short-term IR spots, you get 2 short-term IR spots where you can designate someone for return after 4 games. And according to reports, Dalton Reisner will get one of them. And Gabriel Murphy, another priority undrafted free agent, edge rusher from UCLA, who that dude was the first week and a half of training camp practice. He was running with the first team defense at times.
I love this move.
Blowing some stuff up. So they decided, we're probably not going to sneak him through waivers because somebody might snag him.
Right.
So let's give ourselves another month to just evaluate the injury and see what's up there. And I'm sure more stuff is going to come down while we record this live episode. We will also hit you with a full 53 recap later on today. But that's what we know on the injury front.
So the 2 guys that they're going to put on the new thing where you put 2 guys on IR today that they have to miss 4 games, but they can come back. They're not done. Reisner as well. This one intrigues me because they can't cut a guy unless they reach an injury settlement if he's hurt. And according to the Star Tribune, Dalton has a back problem. So my question is, are they stashing him there to return because they like the idea, or are they stashing him there to return, but he's not going to come back here? Because I could see the offensive line 4 weeks into the season, as far as the depth goes, being fairly solidified. Like, they're going to keep guys there. I think they're going to keep 8, if not 9. I'm going with 8. But, the Reisner thing, we've talked about this, has been sort of weird from the start. So I'm just curious if this is a procedural move done to really bring him back, because you did have, as you just talked about, Phil, had the ability to stash Hawkinson on the PUP and just park him there. So I wouldn't be totally surprised if when Reisner gets healthy, he doesn't come back here, because you can actually cut him at that point without a settlement. Just a thought there. On the Murphy front, I love that move. Because he did show enough, and I think it became very clear to teams, a few of them, they screwed up. I mean, he should have been drafted, right? So I like the move as a stashing procedure, and if he comes back and plays, great. But there's upside there. If not for 2024, then the future.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty smart. Very smart, in fact.
Yep. Just buy yourself some more time. When you have a guy that looks like that throughout the offseason workouts, the last thing you want to do is get tricky there. So that seems like a smart use of the short-term IR. On some of the other guys that were cut, like the 2023 guys, Jaquelin Roy, Andre Carter, and then the 2022 draft, the remnants of it, we've seen some rumblings from like Ben Gessling and some other local beat writers that they might be shopping Brian Asamoah today. They're certainly trying to shop Lewis Cine to save $1.75 million to the cap.
Yep.
But that 2022 draft class, they already pulled the plug on Andrew Booth Jr. They're looking to pull the plug on Lewis Cine today. Brian Asamoah might be traded. So of the 10 guys drafted, you're really down to 3 that you're hoping make an impact. Jalen Naylor in the 6th round. Ty Chandler, who's made an impact, and he will continue to share carries, we assume, with Aaron Jones. Mm-hmm. And then Ed Ingram as your starting right guard. The other 7, it looks like by the end of today, the other 7 could just be non-factors moving forward 2 years after they were drafted.
Right. So the draft itself is a disaster. But that being said, I guess I would prefer to see this. Like, if it's not going to work, it didn't work. You screwed up. Somebody screwed up, right? But there's no, if you're being told by your coaching staff, you know what, these guys don't fit, why prolong it? Like, if Lewisine is not going to play, and he's not especially effective or great on special teams, right? At some point in time, you basically, the smart, prudent thing is, because it's a sunk cost, is to say, I screwed up. We screwed up. They're gone now. If they can trade 2 of these guys, I would be absolutely thrilled. If I could trade Scene, and again, I would take a 7th round pick that might, based on snaps, go to a conditional 6th. I'd be thrilled. And there's a report too that they're trying to trade potentially Evans as well, right?
Yes.
Caleb as well. So yeah, I think we are seeing the realization that draft class actually, just thinking out loud here, you guys, I think that draft class might be the worst draft class since, was it the 05 draft class with Williamson and Erasmus James? Was Marcus Johnson the offensive lineman in that draft class? Because I remember back in my Star Tribune days, I wrote a story like 3 years after a draft, the draft class was gone.
The 05 class, yeah, man, it was Troy Williamson, Erasmus James, Marcus Johnson.
Yeah, this is a disaster class.
Dustin Fox, 3rd round pick, safety out of Ohio State.
Yeah.
Safety or cornerback.
I believe he's now a podcast radio guy, right?
Yeah, he was like doing some Cleveland
analyst?
media, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Pretty
Dustin
sure.
Fox, yep.
And then Seatric Faison, CJ Mosley, and Adrian Ward.
Yep. And Mosley had a decent career, but they traded him to the Jets for Brooks Bollinger.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the type of, that's even worse than this class, but I would say that this is the worst class since that one.
You know, there was that other class, 2019, where they drafted like 13 players. That's a pretty brutal one, too.
Yep.
So
we could.
Garrett Bradbury.
You're not wrong.
Bradbury's the best player from that draft class, and he's been a starting center, but usually a below average starting center according to PFF and your eyes. Irv Smith Jr., Alexander Madison, Drew Samia, Cameron Smith,
Nasty.
Armon Watts, Marcus Epps, Oli Udo, Chris Boyd, Dylan Mitchell, BC Johnson, and Austin Cutting, the long snapper.
Thanks for going to the dollar store, Rick Spielman. Yeah, that's awful.
The 19 class is worse, man. Because 22, Ed Ingram, comparable to Garrett Bradbury in that it's a multi-year starter that's not necessarily great, but at least they're a starter. But at least in the 22 class, you've got Ty Chandler who's giving you something, and then Jalen Naylor might be your number 3 wide receiver. By the way, James Lynch.
Not surprising. As expected.
Yeah, he was a 4th round pick in 2020.
Yeah, and he actually had I think he had an impact in 2022. If I'm not mistaken, got hurt in the night scrimmage at TCO in 23, and it never felt in training camp like he had a chance.
Bobby McCain also. Bobby McCain, according to Adam Schefter, has been
so the safety
released.
room is being now McCain. I wonder if McCain would come back on the practice squad because he's a flow guy. You know, he played for Brian, I think, with the Dolphins, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. So that would be a guy who could definitely, because the practice squad rules now are, I can sign with the practice squad now. They've been loosened up so much. But so now we're down to the safety room is Metellus, Harrison Smith, Cam Bynum, and Lewis Seen, correct?
And Theo Jackson.
And Jackson, sorry. Yep.
And Jay Ward.
That's right. So you've got 5 guys.
And
and Paul Krause. Paul Krause is still there.
Yes.
Brian
Joey Browner. Yes, they're all still there.
I love Joey Browner.
So, I guess the biggest shocker is Kene Nwangwu to this point. If anything comes out here in the next few minutes, we will definitely discuss it live as it happens. Otherwise, we'll wait for the full 53-man roster to come out sometime later today, and we'll give you a reaction episode. In the meantime, boy, that fall weather hopefully is approaching because I am sick of this 90%, 95% humidity crap, the storms and stuff. So no better place to hang out on your beautiful new deck that Ugly Deck fixed up than fall football season.
Oh, absolutely. You go outside, you have a beer, you got a game on. sit on the deck. The leaves are changing. It's absolutely glorious. An ugly deck can make it even better because they're on a mission to rid the world of ugly decks. Book a free deck estimate this month. Get 3 free footings included. Just need a facelift for that deck. Get up to $1,000 off installation or a DIY deck package. For the DIYer ugly deck, they'll install your footings and ledger and save you from the mess and frustration on the hardest part of building a deck. If you want the top carpenters and maintenance-free decks to build your entire deck, they build year-round. So book a free estimate for a new deck this year. Go to uglydeck.com. You know, if you're thinking to yourself, I'd like to have the guys over or have a party on my deck, but I'm embarrassed by my deck. Don't be embarrassed. Get hold of the folks, uglydeck.com. Free estimate. Before you know it, you'll have a beautiful new deck.
Hey, Nicolay Law is here too. We appreciate their support on Purple Daily, and they've supported a lot of people who've been unexpectedly injured in an accident. That's when ordinary life can come to a stop. Things can get complicated. Nicolay Law, very proud to serve the Twin Cities communities that they live in. They know how life is like in Minnesota and the Midwest because they're living it too, just like you are. They happen to have a law degree and expertise, however, in getting you the compensation you deserve after an accident. So if you've been injured, get Minnesota's local award-winning injury lawyers. Get Nicolay at nicolaylaw.com or give them a call at 1-855-NICOLAY. So any other, just before we get to a couple other things here, just thoughts on the early round of cuts? You guys good?
Yeah, I'm good on the Vikings. Do you guys see that the Packers might not even have a kicker, and or if it is, it's going to be Greg Joseph because they cut Andres Carlson. So Greg Joseph is still technically on the Packers roster, but he's obviously not a lock. They might be looking for a kicker to start their season still.
Well, there's plenty of them floating around.
Yeah.
John Parker Romo would love a job. So what's the Packers kicker situation right now?
They cut Carlson.
Yeah, and they kept Joseph.
And Joseph is still technically on the roster, but a lot of the beat people and people plugged in the Packers think that's not necessarily a lock for Greg Joseph to be on the 53.
Oh, okay.
So some people are saying they're going to set their 53 without a kicker, which can you even technically do that? Don't you have to designate someone?
Well, you can do whatever you want with your 53. I mean,
yeah, I don't think there's.
Are you asking if they? I mean, somebody will kick footballs for them,
right? Yeah.
Like they will have a kicker.
This is interesting. Now, Joseph did hit 50-plus yarder in the Packers' last preseason game, and I think Carlson missed one. So this is not completely shocking, but I will say this. Remember what happens when a Carlson brother gets cut. Comes back to haunt your ass is what happens.
He does, yeah.
Comes back to haunt you.
Hopefully that doesn't happen with the Joseph family too. But I feel good about people are kind of mad about Will Reichard not being one of the 4 finalists, Mr. Mankato. By the way, I think we can
It was tough.
Say this officially. Tristhon Jackson is officially Mr. Mankato 2024 as voted on by the Purple Daily audience. But the biggest backlash we got was, why is Will Reichard not one of the finalists? Some people saying, why don't you just make 5 finalists? Well, Twitter only gives us 4 polling slots.
Right.
But I don't know. Who are you bumping? Levi Drake Rodriguez, who was a beast throughout the entire, literally in the trenches of practice and games. The 2 receivers that were lighting it up the entire Jalen Naylor. And then Dwight McLaughlin came out of nowhere and was getting run with the first team defense as an undrafted cornerback. Almost had a pick 6.
There was no competition either. I feel like the Mr. Mankato award also involves competition. And Greg Joseph has one job. Hi, Vinny.
Vinny's like, this is a bunch of crap. Where was Reichard?
Yeah, he's giving his kicks right now to his collar. But I don't think we can include him above the other 4 that were finalists. They beat out other people. They beat out other positions. I think it's more impressive.
Yeah, I mean, he did kick a 57-yarder, and he has some fun nicknames.
I got to be honest. I am just I'm just a little bit biased against the kicker being up for the award. I know that he had a good training camp, and he's a very important piece. Don't get me wrong, but does he really play football? When it comes to what we're doing here, I don't know. He does. Does he really play football? He kicks a football, but does he really play football? We're talking about guys that play football.
I feel like it's also bad karma with this franchise's history if we crown a kicker right away to start the season, right? Let's let that kicker settle his way into this thing. So, yeah, here's the final voting. Actually, there is technically 6 minutes left on this Twitter poll. 4,142 votes.
Nice.
Dwight McLaughlin, 16.8% of the vote. Jalen Naylor, I'm surprised, came in third place in this voting, 23.5%. And then Levi Drake Rodriguez, 26.4%. And Tristhon Jackson, your 2024 Mr. Mankato winner, 33.4% of the vote. I think this tells you that the voters here, obviously, like, not everyone has access to go to a training camp practice, let alone all of the training camp practices like the sports dad does. Jalen Naylor definitely flashed the most in practice and then some in the games. But Tristhon Jackson was out there being featured more in the games, also did well at practice.
Yep.
But this voting, to me, reflects what people saw in the preseason games, which are part of the Mr. Mankato voting process.
And, we also had the situation of, I think that there was a faction of the audience who did not believe that Jalen should be in the running because of his previous playing time, which we disagreed with. But like Tristhon Jackson is exactly what I think the thought of, hey, a guy who when camp started, it's like, okay, there's Tristhon and Lucky, which one's which? And by the end, you knew who Tristhon Jackson was.
Put some respect on that last name Jackson, first name Tristhon. So congratulations to Tristhon Jackson and his family and his support system. Now join.
When does he get the Funyuns?
Yeah, you now join the hallowed halls of Gage Hall. Yeah, the Funyuns, the styrofoam cooler that we gave to Adam Thielen for the first ever Mr. Mankato Award.
You guys can have that.
I definitely kept the Funyuns. Not gonna lie. Had those for lunch that day.
You know what we did? We identified him before anyone else did, really.
It's true.
Yeah, we discovered Adam Thielen.
I mean, Tristhon Jackson could be on path. This could set him for a Ring of Honor ceremony in 15 years.
It could. You never know. So I want to play you guys this clip here. This is Tua Tagovailoa pops up at the press conference podium in Miami, and he obviously made headlines a week ago when he destroyed Brian Flores on Dan Le Batard's podcast, calling him a terrible person. And then Flores was asked about it. Flores, even like before any questions were asked, just came out, addressed it. Yeah. Said it's a learning experience. I'm human. I definitely feel those remarks and am going to look to get better, whatever. But it sparked a bunch of debate nationally. So this was Tua, I think, his first time addressing media in a podium setting since all of this went down. For the audio audience, the reporter questions are a little hard to hear. We did put a transcript on for YouTube, but this is like a minute-long clip. And this is Tua being asked about Brian Flores.
I don't think anyone here thought we'd be relitigating 2021 and 2022 this summer.
Yep.
Have you heard from Brian Flores in the last week?
I haven't heard from him.
Did you see his comments publicly?
I haven't seen his comments publicly.
Is there anything more that you'd like to add in the conversation to that?
There's nothing more I'd like to add to that.
That might be the answer.
Can I just ask you one thing that did occur to me?
Yeah.
And that is, you mentioned in your comments to Dan how he was highly critical of you through that process.
Mm-hmm.
And yet there was, I think, somewhat of a surprise that he made the change when he did. Why do you think that change to bench Brian and insert you happened if he was so down on you?
It's a great question. I'm not going to answer that truthfully right now, but I think I know why. But I won't speculate or give anyone any speculations on that. Whatever you want to create to think that. But other than that, I think that'll just stay here with the organization. No.
Do you think it's more?
What do you make of
the last part?
Especially the last part. Well, the first part, and it's he's being set up with questions here, but
right.
To say it because the headline is Flores has not reached out to Tua, making him look even more. It's like, well, he's literally getting ready for the season, and that's another team's player. They clearly aren't tight, so
right.
I have no problem with that. But the reporter saying, hey, if he hated you so much, why would he just throw you into the fire like that back in 2020? And Tua saying, I'm going to keep that answer close to the vest.
And that's as simple as possible. The owner made him. There's no question in my mind. Like, you've got Fitzpatrick, right? And I mean, he's a great story. Old guy playing QB on his 75th team. But then you got this first-round pick, top 10 pick, and you're not playing him. And we all know that the Dolphins brass injected themselves, right? Like they literally told Flores at one point to lose games on purpose. I guarantee you that the owner came to Flores and said, "You're playing Tua." I guarantee it. So it's not that hard. And I'm sure that that internally, that's a pretty well-known thing. But I mean, if it played out, and it sounds like it did from what Tua has said about Brian, yeah, I don't think Brian woke up one day and said, I can't stand this kid, but I'm going to replace a veteran QB. So I'm sure that for, marketing, tickets, all that good stuff, that he was told to switch QBs.
Yeah, I have just letting this marinate now for a week and then hearing Tua back at the podium yesterday. On the Flores front, dude, if you want to be a head coach, you got to build relationships with quarterbacks. A guy can't walk in at the hardest position in all of sports, maybe struggle to pick things up in the first couple months, and then you crap all over him. So this is a lesson learned if you want to be a head coach in the NFL. Same problem across the entire Belichick tree, by the way. They all come in. They're all hard asses. They're all very militant. They struggle to build connections with players, and then they burn the bridge, and they're on the way out back to being a coordinator or a position coach. But on the Tua front, I will say this. Dude, you lit this flame very purposefully. It seems very petty. The timing of this, I understand it. You're not going to do this until you get security, but you get your $55 million a year, you get your $260 million bag or whatever it was, and now you start opening up the truth bombs. And I would just say, be a little bit careful if you're a guy like Tua and you are insulated with a brilliant offensive play caller in Mike McDaniel, some of the fastest skill position players, Hall of Famer Tyreek Hill. Just if you didn't have that infrastructure, would you really be putting up the numbers that you're putting up right now? Or are you like the 16th best quarterback being propped up by infrastructure? Maybe there was a little bit of truth in what Brian Flores was saying. I don't agree with how he handled it, but I also don't agree with this 100% tsunami pro-Tua, anti-Brian Flores here. Like, we're crowning Tua a little too early, I feel like, in 2024.
I don't think it helps Tua to say what he said. Like, if Kirk Cousins truthfully talked about how Mike treated him, I think it would be equally as bad or worse. But Kirk doesn't. And in that case, I applaud Kirk. It'd be great. I would love to hear the truth, but it doesn't benefit Kirk. And so one is, and I'm sure, he was talking to a guy who is fantastic at drawing people out. I mean, Dan is unbelievable. And so he said all of that towards the end, but it didn't benefit him. But, since we know that, and we certainly saw that the Cousins Zimmer situation didn't work out well for Mike, I think what we've seen too is this. You could probably be a hard ass in football with a lot of guys, but if it's a quarterback who is deemed to be valuable or a high draft pick, you got to watch yourself. Like, you're not going to win that battle unless the guy just sucks and the GM screwed up, right? You are not going to, if you go and tell Kirk, yeah, we don't need to meet, and then Kirk's like, please, and finally the last year you do, like, all of that stuff is going to be put more in your file than the quarterbacks. So this is, like it or not, a new era of how to treat players, I think, across the board. But more importantly, quarterbacks are the most important person in the building.
In fact, what's kind of crazy as you look back on Belichick now, he got so lucky. We talk about how lucky he got with Tom Brady and like, wow, this guy that was driven to win for a quarter century. But the thing that he got the most lucky about with Tom Brady is he landed a quarterback that could take it from him. A quarterback that was just kind of like Greg Popovich in San Antonio with the Spurs. Like, that dude will dish it to players. And the fact that Tim Duncan would sit there for 20 years and be like, yes, coach, may I have another spoonful of crap? I mean, Tom Brady, how many quarterbacks would have been willing to sit there and say, yes, coach, feed me more crap, feed me more condescension, berate me and out me more in front of players and, meeting rooms and stuff. if Belichick wouldn't have landed with that type of a personality, he would be regarded probably as a really good scheming defensive coordinator that flamed out as a head coach, just like all the other guys that have coached under his tree.
Do you think Tom Brady would have been different at all if he had been a first-round pick? Because I think the fact that he fell to the sixth round was used, in some type of rotation at Michigan, right? Like, he had a lot of obstacles. Do you think if he had just been a great quarterback in college and been like, let's say, a top 10 pick, do you think it's different? Because I do think that Tom Brady developed thick skin through a lot of adversity even before he got to the Patriots.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's easier, especially if you're a coach, it's definitely easier to coach a sixth-round pick really, really hard because he's not good enough yet. Like, he's a fringe roster guy.
Yeah.
So, by the way, pour one out. Bo Richter.
I told it. Yeah. Practice squad guy.
Yeah,
I think he's got enough holes in his game currently that he doesn't get claimed.
Yeah, there's a little something there though. There's a little there's a
motor.
Practice squad. Yeah.
There's a little motor there. Absolutely.
Also, Tyrese Robinson, guard Tyrese Robinson has been cut.
They like him a lot, I think, as well. He played a ton.
So yeah, he's probably a practice squad
He'll
guy
sneak
too.
Through. Yeah.
He's a little older, right? He's like 25. Yeah, I guess he just turned 25 last week. Happy birthday, Tyrese Robinson.
Hey, Tyrese, come in. Happy birthday. Oh, wait, Coach, what are you going to tell me? You're fired.
So our guy Forno from Meat and Potatoes, Purple Daily Meat and Potatoes, which you can find now weekly with Judd, a deep dive, X's and O's, draft discussion. He says, by his count, there's still 15 more moves left to make here, but yeah, I guess the biggest ones, the running back room is going to be incomplete until they find somebody on the waiver wires or via trade. And it's looking more like with Andre Carter and Bo Richter and now Gabriel Murphy going to the short-term IR, that the edge rusher room is shaping up to be a group of 5, I think, right? Dallas Turner, Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel, Patrick Jones, and then Jihad Ward. It looks like right now.
Yep.
Anyways.
And they kept, a year ago in Flores' first year as DC, they kept 5 defensive linemen and 5 edges. So that would, and my theory is that once a coach or coordinator sets like what they like to keep from a number standpoint, they ordinarily stick close to that. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's 5 and 5 again. The interesting thing is if they don't trade for a running back today and they try and pluck one, they're going to keep a guy that they'll cut tomorrow or on Thursday.
Yeah.
And then what they hope is that if a team has set its 53, that they won't actually disturb that. Like there's 1,000+ guys who are going to be on the market by the end of business today. And so you're pretty safe in cutting guys because the market's flooded, right? But then, so tomorrow teams will set their practice squad, their roster is set. And sometimes what you do then is you make a late cut because teams are like, well, we just set our team, if that makes sense. There's a lot of strategy here.
Sleight of hand here.
Hey, you thought we were going to keep this offensive lineman? Well, we're not, and you're not going to claim him, are you?
Yeah. But in the short term, anyways, Bo Richter, you are safe to make a tea time. Safe to make a tea time, maybe at the Meadows at Mystic.
Yeah, I'll see you out there. That sounds good to me. Book that tea time, golfthemeadows.com. You can book that tea time by going to golfthemeadows.com. Yes, as Phil said, the heat wave hopefully done here. Also, I think in the metro at least, we got like almost an inch and a half of rain over the last 24 hours. And that course, the Meadows of Mystic Lake, dries up pretty dang quick. They got great equipment. They got great stuff ready to handle any rain that does come down. So you don't got to worry about, having a chunky monkey out there when you go to swing out and take a big divot. But book a tea time. golfthemeadows.com. Go to golfthemeadows.com to play the Meadows at Mystic Lake.
So I think what we'll do here is we're going to wrap this live reaction, call this like part 1, reacting to Vikings roster cutdown day. And we'll see how the rest of the day plays out over the next few hours. We do have to record for Twins fans out there. We're going to pump out Trevor Plouffe Tuesday. So we're going to say goodbye, jump in and record Trevor Plouffe Tuesday. So you'll find that on Scorner Twin Show YouTube channel, Apple and Spotify. And then, Judd, we can come back later today and just do like a full 53-man roster breakdown. Because I want to give room, too, for like if they're going to make a trade or...
Sure.
I mean, there's just different things that could happen here in the next few hours, and we'll call that one a part 2 later on today.
To be continued is what you're saying.
Also, very exciting. The updated top 100 Timberwolves of all time today on Flagrant House. That's right, top 100 Timberwolves of all time.
I bet there's been some movement near the top.
That list gets really juicy once you hit like 28 or 29. And
No, it doesn't get juicy. It gets like
dealing with.
You're just throwing darts
Ellis.
then. Who did I hit?
It's an Andre Karolinko. All right, keep going.
Oh, AK-47. Let's go, man. Gugliotta. I see Lee H in the comment section.
Oh, Googs.
I
loved
top
Googs.
20.
I loved Googs. Great
it's too bad
trade.
him and Marbury couldn't get along, man. I think if they could have kept Googs with KG and Marbury, man, that could have.
What a
been
great
something
trade, though.
For Danielle Marshall.
Yeah, that was one of because they screwed up the pick. Danielle, it turned out, couldn't play, right? And so they immediately flipped him. You talk about cutting your losses quickly and benefiting from it. That's back when McHale was very engaged, in my opinion, in basketball operations.
Googs is one of the most unheralded figures because he was the real centerpiece for why they went to the playoffs. I mean, KG was coming along, but it was kind of Googs' team.
Yep, veteran guy.
Anyways, bet you didn't think you were signing up for Tom Gugliotta talk at the end of Purple.
Oogly.
All right, that's a wrap on this part 1 of the 53-man roster breakdown cut day for the Vikings and for the rest of the NFL. This is Purple Daily, Daily Vikings Entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.